I fucked this up hard. So this girl reaches out to me and she sends me a message. What the hell? You know, like, you owe me money. What the hell? And I ignore that too because I'm freaking out. A couple weeks go by where I haven't paid this designer, and eventually she's fucking pissed off at me and she sends me a Venmo request. In her Venmo request, the description was like, "You're clearly ignoring my messages and being a scumbag." I was like, yup, and I just approved it because she's right. On average, the human brain contains just over a liter of juice, and for this show, I'm going to use every last drop. Welcome to Brain Juice with Noah Chrysler. That's me.
I want you to get it. I want you to understand. I'm doing the best I can, but not as good as I want to be. I just want to get it. I just want to comprehend that I have to make amends with the monster inside of me. But I keep forgetting things I need to know. Where I'm from becomes the great unknown. And I can't seem to get it.
All right, guys, this story is going to be a little hard for me to tell. This is the first one of these in the series that, like, I went back and I made some apologies and I got permission to tell this story because I genuinely f***ed this up. I f***ed this up hard. The other ones are like soft ups, like, oh, like, no, this one I f***ed up. So here we go. Sorry, it's not funny. I don't find it funny. I just, this whole thing does scare me, though, to share this stuff with strangers, right? I don't know. I'm going to try to do a good job of it, and I'm going to try to use this to learn from. And this is like, I don't know. Yeah, I would respect somebody. If I watch this, I would respect the person that was able to make this, right? So that's who I want to be. That's what I want to be, and I want to have the capacity to do that. So here we go. Let's do it. Cool. In college, I tried to start a t-shirt company and apparel brand called Tiger Tech Tees. I went to the Rochester Institute of Technology. Our mascot was Richie the Tiger. And I was like, how can I commit copyright infringement without getting sued for copyright infringement, right? Parody law. Yay. Cool. So yeah, how do I remember I was sitting in one of my marketing classes and this guy who came in who was kind of like a shill, and he was like, you know, here's how I make money selling merchandise about the Adirondacks to people who visit the Adirondacks. I sell these stickers and then they get drop shipped from this store and I don't have to lift a finger. And I watched this presentation and I'm like, I want that, right? And at the time I was running a fairly successful show on our campus that was doing like, you know, tens of thousands of views a week. And I was like, sick, this is an avenue for me to monetize this project that I'm spending all of my time in, right? And it's a way that I can do it on my own terms, right? I'm like, this is fantastic. I'm going to make a merch thing. I'm going to make a merch brand that can help me monetize this project, and I can dump the attention that the project has onto the merch brand, right? Now, I wanted to do it in a way that stood apart from the merch brand, from the RIT Newsman, right? I wanted to make something that was just as valid and just as cool as that project, but stood on its own legs, right? If you look at Teddy Fresh, if you look at H3's clothing line, Teddy Fresh, Ela Klein, they fucking nailed it, right? Their merch line is fantastic, and it's fantastic on its own. And if you're an H3 fan, then it's even more fantastic, right? That's what I was trying to emulate with this apparel brand. Now, at this time, I was broke. I was very, very broke. I maybe had like, you know, $200, right? Because I was working 2 jobs. I was in 2 clubs. I was, you know, making a video every week. And I also decided I'm going to start an apparel brand with the $200 that I had from like, you know, birthdays and Christmas, and also like working at a coffee shop as a barista, right? So I'm broke. I have no resources. Sorry, I'm feeling anxiety. This story is not funny. Here we go. Tonal adjustment. So at the beginning of this project, I am filled with like optimism. I'm filled with good intentions. I'm like, yes, okay, this is a dream of mine, right? This can make my dreams more likely. This can allow me to focus, right? That was the intention at the start of the project, right? It'll let me focus more time. I can quit both of the swimming lessons job and the barista job. and I can just focus on the RIT Newsman, right? And I can fund the project on my own terms with this apparel brand. So, okay, in order to have an apparel brand, you need something. I wanted like something that was going to draw eyeballs, right? That was going to stand on its own as like something really cool. And so I met this one designer at RIT that was very, very, very talented. And I, pitched her this idea. I'm like, hey, I'm trying to start an apparel brand. I think that your designs are really cool. What do you think about designing something for this thing? She goes, I have a great idea. And she had a fantastic idea. Basically, there was, to explain some context, there was this thing on our campus called Balloon Richie, right? So Richie was the mascot. He was a tiger mascot of our school. And there was this balloon company in Rochester that would, make balloons, balloon displays. They called them balloon sculptures, right? And they would make these balloon sculptures, and then they would sell them to you for your event or something. And so one of the balloon sculptures that they would make was Richie the Tiger. But the thing is that these balloon sculptures looked ridiculous, right? They were like really, really derpy. And so it became this huge meme on our campus of like, why would our, people were paying thousands of dollars to go to this school, and that money was being spent on these expensive balloon sculptures that looked ridiculous, right? Like the tiger's like, "Buh," like, so that was really funny. And so this designer had this fantastic idea of making a cartoon of that and having that be the design. And I'm like, that's fucking awesome. And I explained to her, I'm like, hey, look, I'm working 2 jobs. I have no money for this project. How can we make this work? Here's my vision for this. And so we decide on this. We decide on a low base fee, and then we decide on a royalty per shirt sold or per clothing item sold, right? Because I was selling shirts, I was selling socks, I was selling stickers. Basically, she would earn a commission. She would get like X number of dollars for a shirt. She would get X number of dollars for socks, X number of dollars for a sticker. Now, the problem with that, though, well, there's a bunch of problems. There was a bunch of problems that I ran into the hard way. So let's tell the story in order. Let me not get ahead of myself, right? So cool. So she does the design. The designs look great. I am very, very grateful. I pay her a base fee, and I'm like, thank you so much. And the base fee is low, right? Because I'm a broke college kid, but I tried to communicate how much I appreciated her work. Or at least I hope. Maybe I'm saying that in hindsight. Anyway, so now I've got a design, right? And now I also know, and now I have the understanding that, okay, cool, I can do drop shipping and stuff. So cool. So I've got a design. Now I need a website, right? I jump onto Shopify and I fucking tear ass, like just trying to make a Shopify store as quickly as possible. What I realize is making a Shopify store, it takes more time than you think, no matter what, right? Like if you think that you can do it in a week, you're wrong, right? It takes a month. It takes at least a month, right? It's going to take you. And also, here's a fun tip. Websites are pictures, okay? People don't understand that websites are pictures. If you don't have any pictures, you don't have a website, right? A good website is lots of pictures. You know how you can fast track making a website is if you've got a bunch of photos, either of you or the thing that you're trying to sell or the thing that you're trying to do, right? Or the messaging that you're trying to communicate. If you have a bunch of photos, that will help you make a website. Cool. So I had to generate product photos. I used a fulfillment website called Printful. Printful was really cool because you could do on-demand printing of things. But the drawback was that I didn't realize at the time of this, the drawback was, especially at that time, the lead times were insane, right? So if somebody ordered a shirt, if somebody ordered a sticker, they were oftentimes waiting 30 days to receive their product, right? I had no idea that would happen. And when people, spoiler alert, when people were eventually finding the store and ordering things, they got pretty pissed that it took them 30 days to receive their product because, we are in an Amazon society where there's a subtle expectation that if I order something online, it's going to show up in 2 days and I can put it on, right? And if that doesn't happen, that's a problem. That's a real problem. Anyway, I build this store. I build the site, right? I've got the great design. I've got the site. And now I need to get the word out, right? How do I get the word out? Well, again, I wanted to separate this project from the RIT Newsman so that I could have 2 standalone things. In hindsight, I think that was a mistake. If I had all these eyeballs, I should have monetized those eyeballs as much as possible, as quickly as possible. And I didn't do it. Instead, I decided to do guerrilla marketing. Right? Which is so stupid. Now that I'm reflecting on this, it's like, man, I fractured my time. I had something that worked and that I didn't double down on it. Instead, I just did something entirely different, right? Fucking stupid. So cool. I print out like hundreds of paper stickers. Okay. I print out hundreds of paper stickers of this design. And then the website, right, where you can go and you can buy more stickers, you can buy the designs and whatever, and or the merch. And so and it was nice because the paper stickers were such low quality that I was printing on that if you tried to peel them off, I could go stick it on like a wall or something. And if you tried to peel it off, the sticker would peel off, right? So you couldn't re-stick it, right? So it was a perfect ad, right? It was like, oh, sick. Like this is a one-time stamp, right? That I put on a wall. And then if somebody tries to stick it up, to peel it off and put it on their notebook, they can't because it's going to fall apart, right? Now, the problem is that I didn't have a Cricut or anything, and I didn't have, a smart way to do this. And so I literally sat there and I cut out hundreds of stickers with a pair of scissors. And I actually asked the designer, and she was very, very helpful. There was 2 designers for the project, and they both helped me like cut these stickers and things. And that was very nice of them. Cool. So then I start guerrilla marketing. I slap the stickers up everywhere, right? Which, by the way, vandalism for sure. Oh well, it's 10 years ago. Maybe the college is still gonna be mad at me. It's fine. But anyway, I start guerrilla marketing this thing like crazy, right? Stickers everywhere. I hand out stickers. I'm like, hey, stick these all over. I give them to all my friends. I ask them to stick. Suddenly the campus is plastered with stickers, right? Cool. Then the first like month of the store, I actually had some sales, right? I had some organic sales. I'm like, oh my God, this is it. This is super cool, right? People were going to the store. It was really cool because they were stumbling upon the store, right? And I had worked really hard on the store, right? And I had used my own personal comedic voice to write the product descriptions for the store, right? The comedic voice that I basically refined through RIT Improv, right? And so I made these product descriptions. They were absolutely ridiculous, right? I can't remember any examples, but it was like, slap this shirt on your gullet so that you can like march around this school and like, show that like you're funny or some shit. I don't know. But it was written in a very, very strong sense of comedic voice and comedic identity, right? And I remember getting feedback on those product descriptions. They were like, whoever created this store is crazy. Like, and I loved that, right? That was super cool. So we start getting some sales. Now, when I say start getting some sales, we sold like, I don't know, 5-10 shirts in the first month, right? And I'm thinking, this is great. Then the project starts to blow up in my face. Let's go through that. Here we go. I start getting emails. Hey, where is my shirt? Right? And I'm like, fuck, I don't know. I'm not doing the fulfillment, And also, I'm in a full course load, right? I'm in 2 clubs. I'm trying to make a video every week, and I'm super spread thin, and I have anxiety, right? And fucking ADHD, right? I haven't been diagnosed with anxiety, but I think I've generalized anxiety, like especially in college when I'm like under so much pressure and so spread thin, right? So I'm like barely handling these emails, right? I'm trying to email back and forth and do some customer support for some of these people, but like a lot of people are pissed off at me, and they rightfully should be pissed off at me, right? It's like, yeah, if I paid you, because also the shirts were expensive, right? It was a sweatshirt was like $50, right? Because Printful, they had a base rate on their website that was like, because they're a giant company that needs to make a commission or whatever the fuck, right? So they were making the majority of the money. They were making $35 on every $50 sweatshirt that I sold, right? And then the designer, I don't remember exactly what it was, but the designer was also making a flat base fee for every sweatshirt that I sold, right? Meaning that like my margin was like, 10%. Right? Or 20%, right? Which was really dumb on my end. I didn't know that like a good margin is a healthy margin when you're selling a product like that is like 40% after fulfillment and stuff. So, I didn't know any of that, right? So anyway, my margins aren't high enough, right? And I'm getting these customer support emails that need to be addressed because these people are pissed off at me, and they should have a right to be pissed off at me. Right. So then and then I'm like, fuck. Right. Also, I'm realizing, cool, this initial wave of success, nobody's repeat buying. Right. Once they buy one thing, they've had a bad experience because it took 30 days to get the product. So they're not going to buy again. Right. Cool. So that starts to happen. The first month I pay the commission to the designer. Right. I go, hey, great job. And because we're also in the beginning of the semester. Right. Finals aren't kicking up. The semester's not too hard yet. Right. So I pay her the commission the first month. Next month rolls around, right? Now the store's struggling in sales, and all of the tests are starting to get pretty hard, right? The semester's starting to ramp up, and there's more and more pressure, right? And when there's more and more pressure, I start to recede back into my turtle shell, right? Looking for safety, right? And gets to month 2, and I forget, I don't pay this girl the commission, right? Because I am terrified because I'm not making enough margin to have the money to pay this girl, right? And also at this point, the store started to tank, right? The organic reach started to tank. And so what I started to do was I started to spend money on Facebook ads, right? And I started to spend Facebook ads to promote these things on the campus targeting RIT students, right? And so this girl reaches out to me and she sends me a message. And to this day, I regret this so much, but I ignored her message. I failed to respond to her message, right? And so she messages me again a couple days later, like, hey, what the hell? You know, like, you owe me money. What the hell? And I ignore that too because I'm freaking out, right? But she doesn't know that, right? And here's the thing is that I reached out to her and I asked her permission if she was okay with me telling this story. And she told me yes. But I want to go through her messages and I want to make sure that I'm doing her justice in this, right? Because I am in the wrong in this story. I should have immediately responded to her and at least given her an update, right? And I didn't do that. And the reasons why, I want it to be clear that like the reasons why are irrelevant. No matter my justification, it doesn't make it okay that I ignored that girl that I owed money to. That is not okay. In a few moments after I go through the story, I'm going to go through her messages and I'm going to make sure that I do a good job of communicating her sentiments. I offered to, read a letter from her in this video and she didn't send me that. And maybe I can go and ask her one more message about, hey, do you want a letter to be included in this, with your side of this? But in a few moments, I'm going to go through the messages that she did send me and try to really summarize her thoughts so that I don't strawman her and I treat her with respect in this because she is a very talented person and I fumbled the bag on this. So yeah. Anyway, cool. A couple weeks go by where I haven't paid this designer and eventually she's fucking pissed off at me and she sends me a Venmo request. And the Venmo request is like, a big lump sum. And I'm like, and she's like, well, or what she did was, I'm sorry, it wasn't a big lump sum. Let me say this. She took the first month's sales, right? The commission that she calculated from the first month's sales, and she basically calculated what that would be. I think she sent me the Venmo request on month 3, right? I missed month 2, and she sent me the Venmo request on month 3, and basically did a linear calculation of like, if I made this much this time, if I made that much every month, then this is what I would be owed, right? And she sent me that. And in her Venmo request, the description was like, you're clearly ignoring my messages and being a scumbag. So I thought I'd make it easy and just send you this request. And I just approved it. I was like, yup, I fucked this up. Yup, boom, approve. And so she was paid for those missed commissions. After I hit approve on Venmo, I remember feeling such embarrassment, right? Because it's like, this person's right. When people don't have a good point, it's easy to dismiss them. But when they have a good point and you're wrong, then it's like, fuck, like, shit. Right? So I remember being like, fuck me, I fucked this up. And all these people are mad at me. Not only is the designer mad at me, but all of these customers are mad at me. Right? And I'm just like, I'm doing too much. I'm doing way too much. And I just remember shutting the store down entirely. Right? Boom, off. Totally take down the store. Stop the ads, right? Stop spending money that I don't have. I don't remember the exact financials of the project, but I do remember that I lost my fucking ass. I lost my ass on that project and it took a bunch of time and I was filled with shame, regret, and embarrassment. And I'm going to cut some footage in here that is aimed at addressing her points and treating her with respect and not strawmanning her because the way I'm really going to learn from this situation is by fully understanding her side of the story. Okay. So I'm going to cut some footage in here. All right. This is the part where I go through her messages and I really try to fully and earnestly understand what the hell she was trying to communicate to me, without like overlaying my bullshit onto it. Right. I think the first thing that she tries to communicate is that, or that she does communicate is that the issue was about how she felt disrespected by me. It had very little to do with the money. The money was not very much money, and she knew that going in, I think. But the the issue that she points out is that she felt disrespected during the project, especially when I did not respond to her message, right? Completely valid. And I regret that. She says that, avoiding the situation was completely unnecessary. And that's what ultimately sucked for her, right? The fact that I avoided her, right? Which also I can empathize with that, right? It's like, like suddenly she's being this like person who now has to like chase me down. She has to like chastise me for money that I owe her, right? Like that sucks. That makes her have to deal with this, mental conception of like, oh, like I am a person that needs to go. Like suddenly she's a mafia boss shaking me down, and like that probably sucked to do. She felt hurt because she was doing this work as a favor to me, right? She knew I didn't have many resources, and I explained that to her, I think, and she felt like she was doing me a favor, and then she did that. She fulfilled her end of the bargain, and then I fucking fell short and didn't fulfill mine, right? And so what the fuck, right? She did a kind thing for me, and then I took advantage of her kindness, right? Valid point. Then she makes a point here that she says that I undervalued her design work. And I think that that's valid too. There's a creator that I follow a lot named Chris Do, and he runs a company called The Future. And he gives talks all over the world and talks about value-based pricing instead of cost-based pricing.
If I could do a logo for you right now and you love it in 5 minutes, are you saying it's worth less than 18 or is it worth more now? Because I saved you a lot of time. We can go to market right now. It's worth more. So charging by the hour punishes me for being good.
Right. That's one of his big key tenets of like, what he helps designers do is get paid a fair wage for their work. And he talks about how, a logo to a company like Nike, the Nike swoosh is worth millions and millions and millions of dollars, right? And so basically charging the value of good design is very high, right? And so that is a valid perspective. I think one thing I could have done was increase transparency, right? To show her like, to give her a dashboard and things. She felt, and I want to earnestly take her feedback. She felt like I undervalued her design work, and I see where she's coming from. Then she, says, I hope you don't, do this to other people, right? I hope that people who work with you, right, if they're relying on, I hope that nobody has to rely on the money that you have promised to pay them, and, they are not paid by you, and therefore they, are in a bad financial situation as a result. I think that is valuable and progress-oriented feedback. And the purpose of making this video is to make sure that I'm holding myself accountable and earnestly trying to do better practices, trying to delegate, trying to create systems that increase trust and transparency and accountability, right? Another thing that she points out in this message is that not only did I kind of screw her in this conversation or in this situation, in this story, she also points out that by making this video, I am again monetizing this situation. And I think that's a valid perspective too. That's a valid point too, is that I am now, making this and this video, I don't know if it will, but it has the potential to potentially make money, right? Now, I will say, I think the earning potential of this video is probably at this stage when my podcast has very, very little reach. I don't think it is very high, but she has a good point, is that, by telling this story, there is a monetization potential here. I will say that monetization potential is going to go directly back into my project and help, compensate the collaborators that are currently helping me with this project right now. But she's not wrong. Cool. And then she says that she's okay with me using the story in the video, but she wants me to make sure that I highlight and discuss the broader issues, right? The lack of communication, undervaluing her work, and basically ghosting her, right? And I hope that she watches this and thinks that I did a decent job in communicating that. This kind of stings a little because she's right, but that's how you grow, right? It's like, fuck, I'm wrong. I'm wrong about these 5 things. I fucked this up. And everything you probably want in life is on the other end of some uncomfortable growth, right? So let's fucking grow. Now I'm going to continue though with my recollection of this story, with my learnings from this story and also the impact that this story had on me. Here's the first thing. I don't want to sound like a victim in this, right? Because I'm not a victim in this. Like you know, the people who experienced inconvenience from me are the victims of this story. I am not a victim of this, right? That said, I think it's also valid to acknowledge that I think this experience traumatized me in a way that really fucked with my head, right? The idea that I, you know, inflicted this pain and inconvenience onto this designer who was very angry with me, the way that I inflicted this pain and inconvenience onto these like customers who were pissed off at me, right? Like that left this like lasting traumatic impact on my brain, right? Where it's like, oh, like, you know, if you just go into stuff with blind optimism, you know, if you collaborate with people, right, that is dangerous. It is very dangerous to collaborate with people. That I think is what my initial reaction and conclusion was for a few like years after this experience, right? I don't think that was really fully synthesized until, you know, a couple years later when I moved to Atlanta. When I was working on videos myself in Atlanta, that's what I think really solidified for me. Like, oh, like, you know, basically when you collaborate with other people, it can go really bad and you can be a perpetrator and you can, you know, it's a path to guilt and shame, right? I think that is something that I internalized after this experience. And I think that as a grown man, I think that's the wrong conclusion, right? Like one conclusion I came to is that like if I work with a creative individual, I need to pay them a fortune, right? I need to pay them a fortune because creative work is really valuable work and that those people need to be paid an absolute goddamn fortune if they're going to contribute to my project, right? Now, that is a valid way to see that, right? That's a valid framework and a valid mindset to have in that, you know? But if you're going to carry that around as a creative entrepreneur, who oftentimes has no resources to work with, right? Or very, very few resources to work with, right? And you are at capacity, you're busting ass to try to, you know, generate as many resources as possible. If you're going to be saddled with this belief that a creative individual, if they contribute to your project, needs to be compensated like fucking King Midas, right? I don't think that you're going to be able to create something that has any form of success, right? Like you need creative ideas from other people, and you need collaborators, or at least I do. I know that I need creative ideas from other people and I need collaborators. It helps accelerate the progress of whatever I'm doing if I can get those people involved, right? And sometimes I'm not going to have resources. That's just a fact, right? So one wrong conclusion is if I have no resources, then I cannot work with other creative professionals. That is the wrong conclusion. That is my point, right? The correct way, or at least the way that I navigate this nowadays, is I try to provide informed consent to the best of my ability. If I don't have resources, then I communicate, hi, I don't have resources. You can back out of this project if you want to. You can back out of this project at any time. I am doing this project for these reasons. I believe in the success of this project for these reasons. I do plan and hope someday that when this project hopefully generates revenue, I will be able to compensate you in X, Y, and Z way. And that is my belief and my hope. And if you want a contract about that, I'm happy to sign one or create one that serves us both, right? And also, if you don't want to work with me, I understand that. And like, there is no pressure. If you want to back out of this, I am not entitled to your creative output. I am not entitled to, you know, the incredible things that you make with your time, right? If you choose to help me, that is awesome. And I would genuinely love and appreciate that. But I am not entitled to your work. I'm not entitled to your time, right? Informed consent and clarity is a huge asset to someone who has a vision and very, very little resources, right? In order to get to the vision, I need people to follow me and to help me along the way, right? And I need to not make them promises that I can't fulfill. That is what I think the ultimate correct takeaway is from this. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching this episode of Brain Juice with Noah Chrysler. This is the mid-roll, and I've got a couple people to thank. Here we go. First of all, thank you so much for watching. If you are watching this video, there are a few things that you can do to help me. First, you can like the video. That really, truly helps us out, tells the algorithm, hey, this is cool, keep pushing. In this video, I talk about, starting a project with good intentions, and then as it went on, I realized, oh my gosh, I'm messing this up. So if you have a story similar in your life, tell me about something that you tried to do with good intentions, but it didn't turn out how you wanted it to. Tell me about that in the comments. Also, guys, subscribe to this channel if you want to see where we go, because I think we're going to do something really cool here, and I would really love it if you came along for the ride. Only 30% of you guys that watch these videos are subscribed to this channel, so I would really, really appreciate it if you subscribe to my YouTube channel. That said, no pressure. I get it. You can always unsubscribe if you want to later. Totally fine. Also, guys, if anything I said in this video resonated with you at all, if it made you think about somebody else, send it to them. I would really appreciate that. Hey, this crazy idiot made me think about you in a good way or a bad way. It doesn't matter. Also, guys, if you're listening on a podcast platform, go ahead and leave us a review on that podcast platform. That also really helps out the show. Guys, if you really, really want to help out the show and you want my forever adoration, you can go on to patreon.com/Noah Chrysler. There are 3 levels of support where you can support this show. Where does your support go? Your support goes directly to the collaborators, the very, very talented people that helped me create this show. Again, patreon.com/Noah Chrysler. I'm working 2 jobs to help pay those people right now. And basically, with your support, I can help pay them more. And someday, not anytime soon, but someday, I can focus all of my attention on this instead of working 2 jobs and doing this, right? So if you're willing to help me do that, I would really appreciate you. Those people, those collaborators are the following people, but it's not limited to just them. These are just some of them that are going to get a thank you right now. That team of collaborators includes, but is not limited to, Kurt Malidi. Kurt is an incredibly talented video editor, motion graphics, and VFX artist. You can hire Kurt for your projects by sending him an email at kurtmalidi@gmail.com or by visiting his website, kurtmalidi.com. Next is my cousin, Brandon Chrysler. Brandon is an aspiring audio engineer, and he masters the audio for this show, and he makes everything sound so nice and so good and crispy, baby. Brandon is also the business manager for this project, so basically he's in charge of managing the Patreon funds so that your money is invested and spent in the wisest way possible to help compensate collaborators and to help make this project successful. He is the business manager for the project. He is awesome. Thank you, Brandon, for your help. Couldn't do this without you. You can hire Brandon for podcast editing or music mastering by sending him an email at brandonleechrysler@gmail.com. Thank you also to Laura and Carla Nunez for creating shorts for this show. They specialize in post-production services, including color grading, audio mastering, visual effects, and editing. You can hire them for your next project by emailing info@clickpostcorp.com. For real, though, one of the best ways you can help me is just by continuing to watch and listen and support this show with your attention. Your attention is the most valuable asset humanly possible, and I truly appreciate you for sharing it with me. Thank you. Your ability to get people to follow you into the darkness, to follow you into projects that are filled with uncertainty, that is a very, very valuable thing. And if you completely cut yourself off from the ability to use that, that's a mistake, right? Now, that said, if you're grabbing somebody's hand and dragging them into the dark, they need informed consent. Hi, I don't know what's out here, right? Hi, I don't have money resources to compensate you with, right? People are very, very complicated, right? Sometimes people are doing things for money, right? Sometimes people enter periods of their life where it's like, fuck you, pay me, right? Like that's a valid way to live, right? But there are tons and tons and tons of different people on this planet, and some of them are motivated. Some of them are at stages in their lives where they're motivated by things other than money, right? And so if you can find those people, and you can explain to them what you're trying to do and how you think that it might have some success someday, and you explain to them like what you can compensate them, and then you give them a path that you intend, right, as the path forward, right? That's all you can do, right? You can't just give people the world all the time, right? Because you don't have the world to give, right? What you can do, though, is you can explain to people that you're leading into the darkness. Hi, this is darkness. I don't have all the answers. Come with me. Right? Another thing that you can do is that if somebody sends you an angry message and you are in the wrong, you can reach out to them at that moment and you can respond, right? You know, a great way to escalate conflict is to ignore the person who is trying to, Like if they just want to fight with you, like sure, maybe ignore it for a day or two, so let them simmer down. But like, you know, like, but a great way to resolve conflict and to avoid huge problems is to not hide from the fires. If there is a fire, hi, how's it going? Let me make this right. Let's figure this out right now, right? Don't put something off. Also, here's another important thing, is that when you are setting up systems to pay residuals, when you are setting up systems that, you know, pay is a percentage of performance, pay is a variable rate that needs to be calculated based on some sort of calculation, right? That takes work. That takes time. Part of the reason why I procrastinated paying that designer is because I didn't know how much I owed her. Right? I was not in the Shopify analytics every day because I was so spread thin doing other things that like it took time to calculate the exact number that I owed her. Right? And I fucked that up. So another key error that I made was that I assumed that I would have the time every month to calculate how much I owed this designer. And I didn't have that time. Or rather, I failed to make that time to do that each month. Another thing is that I didn't have a monthly deadline. Hi, you will be paid every day on this month, right? Or on this day of the month. Or maybe I did. I might have, but I didn't have the systems that could support that deadline, right? I didn't have a dashboard, right? The other thing is visibility, right? This designer did not know that I was spending my own money on ads to promote her stuff so that like she could earn a commission. I don't think she knew that, right? So if I told her that, or I gave her a dashboard of like, hey, this is my ad spend, that probably would have, it might not have, but maybe she would have potentially shifted her thing to like, oh, he's losing his ass on this, and like, you know, I'm you know, trying to get blood from a stone. Yes, the stone told me that, you know, he was going to pay me and he didn't, fucker. But like, you know, he's losing his ass on this project. And then the other thing is just like, is a dashboard providing that designer who is supposed to make those commissions, you know, a dashboard into the sales of the product, right? That would have increased trust a lot, I think, right? And it would have relieved a lot of pressure. Instead, you know, I created a system unintentionally where she had to trust and rely on me, especially when I was dropping the ball, right? And that pissed her off. And she had every right to be pissed off. So don't do that. Don't do that. When you're making systems, when you're working people and you're leading them into the dark and you're promising them things, right? Then make it so that they can see the results, right? That's important. If you're doing a performance-based pay or something, these people need to be able to see the metrics, right? That is very important. And then here's the last one is that I wrote, recognize your limits and delegate, right? What I could have done was rope in one of my friends to do customer support for the store, respond to all those emails, and manage the payouts, right? That's what I should have done all of those years ago, and I didn't do it. And I didn't do it because that took time. You know, it takes time to get other people up to speed. It takes time to train them, and it's a difficult thing to do, right? It's not delegation is not some magic bullet, right, that automatically solves your problems, but it is a tool that if you use successfully can help change stuff, right? I was not good at delegation at that time. And delegation is still something that I'm struggling with, right? I don't know what is too much, right? I don't know. I'm trying to find the right equation of like, what is helpful, right? How can I support the team without micromanaging the team, right? I don't know, right? It's a fine line. So yeah, I think I said most of what I wanted to say, right? This project, I think, traumatized me a little bit for the next handful of years, right? There's a point in my story where I'm alone in a city where I have nobody around me, and I'm working on projects quite literally by myself in a room that I call my success dungeon. And that is a reaction to the trauma of this situation. It's a trauma response to like, if I collaborate with people, I can fuck it up and they will hate me and I will be a fucking perpetrator, right? And they will be in the right and I will be in the wrong, right? That said, this fuck up taught me a lot. It taught me a lot of real, valuable, and important shit. And to the designer in the story, I'm sorry. Genuinely, I am sorry for this. And thank you for, at the end of the day, your design was fucking awesome. I think that's where I'm going to leave this. There's a lot more I could say, but I'm just going to leave this here. And I hope I don't sound like a fucking prick. I am looking at the analytics of episode 1 of this. And I think that one of the things, this episode, funny enough, or actually the episode 2 that's going to go live on Monday, the funny thing about that is like I get down on myself for undervaluing and underappreciating the metrics of the work that I was doing at that time, right? The Pokemon series that I was doing, right? I underappreciated that. Right, so I thought it would be cool to just record this, and maybe this doesn't go anywhere. Maybe this goes at the end of the episode or whatever. But or maybe this goes on Patreon or something. I don't know. If you want to join the Patreon, you can get on that wall, and we'll put your face up. I'm gonna make a little wall of fame. It's gonna be really cool. I'm gonna look at this really quick. This video has gotten 310 views since it was published. The views are 310. The watch time is 19.6 hours. Now that number to me stuck out. 19.6 hours. I think that if I am in my brain, I think the insecure part of my brain goes, oh my God, my video got only 19.6 hours of watch time. Other people on this planet get millions of hours of watch time, right? Like, I mean, a good, successful YouTube channel is going to do thousands, hundreds of thousands of hours of watch time, or actually probably tens of thousands. Like monthly, they're probably doing tens of thousands of hours of watch time. And mine's at 20, right? Or 19.6. Let's not give me too much credit. So that is a warped perspective, right? One conclusion is that those YouTubers that have the 10,000 hours a month of watch time are doing it correct. And I am doing it wrong. Let's say it like this. That conclusion could be one way to view this situation. That conclusion could be correct, right? That is a correct lens. But the belief that I will choose, right? The belief that will serve me better in this moment is 19.6 hours of time that people spent hearing me speak about things that are so important to me that like there is probably nothing else more important to me, which is sad in a way, right? Like relationships should be more important to me than some of my failed work projects. But like these are some of the stories that defined my life. And people listened to those stories for over 19 hours. If I were to go and try to do that, if you were to take like a work week, that is half of a work week focused on listening to me, right? That is crazy, right? Like if I were to go and have one-on-one conversations with people and tell them 19 and a half hours of stories from my life, right? That would take me much more than a week. I know that for a fact. I've worked in companies all over, right? I know that like, you know, if you were to have 19 hours of meetings, one, that sounds like a nightmare. And two, like it would be a hugely monumental thing. If you got 19 hours with the CEO of, you know, whatever you're building, right? I would love how I'm automatically assuming I'm the CEO, right? My point is though, is that like, if I spent 19 hours, instead of comparing myself to somebody who's getting hundreds of hours or thousands of hours or 10,000s of hours of watch time per month, instead of comparing myself to that, why don't I compare myself to the idea of like, if I spent my time individually finding people in my life and trying to explain to them the wisdom of my past failures, it would take me much, much longer than 19 hours or I guess if I did that for 19 hours, I think that would have been a very, very, very good use of my time. And I was able to do that in much less than 19 hours, right? I was able to get 19 hours of output, right? 19 hours of explaining wisdom to people about my past failures for maybe I put much more than 19 hours into it, but it doesn't matter to me. I like those 19 hours are hours that are awesome, right? It is me talking about my life, reflecting on things honestly, and then sharing what I think to be my wisdom is. That to me is more than enough. I am super happy with that progress. And also, I built it with a team of people, right? I built it with an extremely talented team of people that, you know, and we did a good job, right? That is a huge accomplishment. And it also has inspired me to set the groundwork to consistently do it over time, right? And try to make it in a way where those people feel respected. They feel like they are a part of this. They feel like they are happy to contribute and adequately compensated when they do contribute, right? That they're valued members of this team that are going to get, compensation for being a part of it, right? That to me is hugely important, right? But also the 19 hours of watch time are also a huge accomplishment, right? I think I get down on myself like, oh man, like, dude, this didn't have 1 million views. And it's like, dude, like 19 hours. When's the last time you talked to individual people for 19 hours straight? That's crazy. And when you do sit down with people, how often do you have a conversation like the experience of watching one of these videos? Probably very rare. So I don't know. This is for me to listen and watch back and say, oh, cool. This is why you're doing this, man. This is why you're doing this. This is awesome. 19 hours of people giving an earnest effort into trying to understand your life experience and to help you get better at living. I think that is a valuable use of time.
Thank you to Second Suitor for the use of our theme song, Get It, off their 2018 album, Safe Space. Make sure to go check them out on Spotify. Also, thanks to Brandon Chrysler for editing this show.
I want you to get it. I want you to understand. I'm doing the best I can, but not as good as I wanna be.